A very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very happy upcoming New Year to all of our loyal CoachCast listeners. This is John Collins with our final message of the year. Today is December 16th, 2024. In my previous CoachCast update, which was released on December 2nd, I provided what I would describe as a bit of a tease in my update to you. I made mention of the fact that we will be making a significant, but not necessarily radical change to the podcast format. And what I would like to do today is explain what is going to happen, why it's going to happen, and why I believe it's important, and also why I think that each of your laboratories and your parent agencies should also be on the alert so that you can position yourself to make similar shifts in your service approach in the coming years, because I do think that will be necessary. And if that seems a bit vague, I promise that this will all make a little bit more sense in just a moment. I want to begin by officially announcing that the name of our podcast is going to change at the start of the new year. The existing platform is going to remain in place, so you will still have access to all of the old episodes and updates in case you want or need to access them. But before I tell you the new name of the podcast, so that it makes complete sense, I need to explain the thinking that went into the decision, which was a very challenging one that required a lot of reflection and consultation with colleagues and current clients and other individuals that know me and that I trust to give me their honest opinion. And this has been a process that has really been ongoing over the last year, and so I'm excited to finally be able to execute it. So here we go. As much as I love forensic science, and as much as I love the forensic laboratory sciences as a profession, to include all of you in your laboratories, the underlying motivation that really drives much of what I do here is not necessarily the technical or administrative side of the profession, although that is very important to me on many levels. It's not just using science to solve crimes, as it is for many others that I've spoken to about this. Instead, for me, my primary motivation is and has always been to contribute to the conditions that allow for forensic laboratory scientists to develop as quickly as possible into highly effective expert witnesses, which is to say, or another way of saying it, is that it has been and will always be the expert witnessing that has been my primary interest. It is the part of forensic science, you might say, that I love the most. And looking back, I think it was probably the strongest part of my own performance as a forensic scientist. And of course, there are a lot of things that have to be done well by those of us in positions of leadership or influence to produce thoughtful and honorable professionals that can step off of the witness stand after testifying and leave everyone in the courtroom thinking, wow, that was an outstanding witness. That was a consummate, trustworthy professional that we just saw and heard from. That individual is welcome here in this courtroom at any time. It doesn't matter what is being communicated or whether the witness was called by the prosecution or by the defense. It's much bigger than that. And so, as far as the professional efforts that I have made to provide, for example, leadership coaching and leadership instruction to current and future supervisors, laboratory directors, and other administrators, these have been important to me because it is the style and priorities of leadership that ultimately create the environment in which people can develop into consummate professionals and eventually consummate expert witnesses. Another way to say this is that if we are all doing our jobs well, then we will create the conditions in which highly reliable, highly trusted expert witnesses will arise from the cultures that we are creating in our laboratories. So again, my primary motivating focus is the courtroom, because each and every courtroom has such a lasting and unmistakable impact on the quality of people's lives and the trustworthiness of our entire criminal justice system. And every courtroom depends, to one degree or another, on expert witnesses to provide the support that they need to ensure that parties have their day in court and that the proceedings are fair and honest and timely and as reliable as humanly possible. And I absolutely love being a part of that effort, and I am going to continue to be a part of that effort. Now, I need to disclose that this next and final factor leading to the changes that we're making with the podcast is a bit forward-looking and even a bit speculative in its nature, but I do feel very confident that it impacts me and the work that I do both inside and outside of forensic science, and I believe that it impacts each and every one of you and your laboratories. So what is that? In my judgment, the very best judgment that I can muster, there has been a slow but substantial shift taking place in what taxpayers are willing to prioritize when it comes to our criminal justice system or the safety of the public more generally. And this shift is being accelerated right now by a growing understanding that we simply cannot afford to just accept that crime happens and then pride ourselves as criminal justice professionals on how well we deal with it after it's already happened. And as these public sentiments continue to mature, which I believe they will, there is going to be an increased focus and investment in preventive measures. And at the top of that list is going to be the mental and emotional health of young people who are entering the age of greatest vulnerability and temptation to engage in deviant or violent behavior. We're also going to continue to see the expansion of data-driven, evidence-based policing strategies that interface more effectively with schools, businesses, even churches and other community institutions that stand to have a positive impact on public safety. We're going to see a dramatic explosion in what is called neurocriminology, which is the study of the biological factors that predispose certain individuals to violent and other forms of criminal behavior. But we are not going to see the same kind of prioritization of programs and infrastructure that are perceived as simply reacting to crimes that have already occurred. Now, this is not to say that we'll suddenly stop investigating or adjudicating crime. Of course, that's not going to happen. We have to investigate and adjudicate crime. But the prevention of crime is going to be and must be a much higher priority throughout the rest of the 21st century, without question. And so this brings me to forensic science, the occupation that we all care so much about. Until fairly recently, I had been of the opinion that a day was going to come when forensic science laboratories would be removed from the administrative control of police agencies, as was recommended in the 2009 findings of the National Academy of Sciences. Although this is still within the realm of possibility, my thinking on this has evolved a lot in recent years for a variety of different reasons, which I won't go into right now. And I now believe that this separation will not be a priority. And I believe that forensic science laboratories, as we know them today, will continue to fall under the authority of police commanders, with, of course, a few exceptions. The reason that I do not see the separation of crime labs happening is because there won't be the political or financial motivation that would be needed to make that happen and to make that a priority. Again, we are in an era when the public will grow increasingly focused on the prevention of crime. Therefore, taxpayers won't really care much about who is in charge of publicly funded forensic science laboratories. They don't even care now. And they really never have. Instead, the public will be focused, as I said, on the prevention of crime as it should be. The public cares about being kept safe. They don't care who is in charge of forensic science laboratories. That is outside of their realm of interest. So the ground, if you will, is shifting beneath our feet. And I think we have a clearer understanding of how criminal justice and public safety programs are likely to be prioritized in the coming years and decades. Therefore, I am announcing an important and I hope very meaningful change to the direction of my own professional podcasting journey. And I expect this change will attract more forensic experts, which of course includes each and every one of you, and new audience segments across the criminal justice system that I hope to reach and inform as a result of this change. And I know that this change will help to accelerate that because we've already seen people that are not necessarily in forensic science that are being attracted to the podcast, to the Crime Lab Coachcast, which includes journalists and attorneys, both prosecutors and defenders. So, without further ado, I am announcing that effective immediately, the name of our podcast will be changed to Crime and the Courtroom, where we will explore news, stories, insights, strategies, and opportunities related to how our society and its institutions investigate and adjudicate crime. And just like the Crime Lab Coachcast, Crime in the Courtroom will serve an audience of professionals just like you who are entrusted with the ongoing responsibility of keeping the public safe and, in doing so, protecting and preserving our quality of life. Please know that nothing about my training or coaching programs in forensic science will change. They will continue to be a priority, but as part of the format change to the podcast, more specifically, I will be including forensic laboratory segments in our format so that we can continue to address specific topics of importance to the forensic laboratory community, which will remain, as I said, a top professional priority for me, even as we expand the kinds of topics and issues that we cover. Each and every one of you is a criminal justice professional, and criminal justice will be our focus, and that, of course, includes forensic science. Our first episode of Crime in the Courtroom will be released on the third Monday of January, which is January 20th, and our season will run right up to Thanksgiving as it currently does. So I'd like you to please subscribe if you haven't already, and please tune in for our January 20th episode, which also happens to be the day that Donald Trump will begin his second non-consecutive term as our next U.S. president. It will be, I think, the perfect time for us to explore a particularly specific policy imperative that, in my view, needs to be prioritized by our law enforcement community in the coming decades, which we will tackle on that January 20th episode. So I look forward to having you join me then. Until then, as I've always said when I signed off from the Crime Lab Coachcast, please remember that the work you do in forensic science has a profoundly positive impact on the quality of people's lives, and that you and your laboratories are respected and appreciated not only by me, but by the public that depends on you and the work that you do. And I look forward to our new podcast format, allowing me to inform a larger audience about the sacrifices that you and your laboratories make and the value that you deliver to the public each and every day. So please enjoy the rest of your holidays, everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy, and I will see you next year as we transition into the next chapter of our podcast with the first edition of Crime in the Courtroom. You will not want to miss that episode. Thanks, everyone. This is John Collins signing off, and I will see you in January. Take care.